I actually don't really listen to much R&B music at all. I don't tend to listen to the type of music that I make. I just think having vocals and lyrics in a song allows you to be so much more expressive, for me personally. Hey Musicorama, it's Quinn Oulton over in South London, and I'm going to answer some of your questions. So I like the term alternative because even though it can mean so many different things and there's so much music that's defined as alternative that doesn't sound anything like each other, I feel like it implies that people are doing something different, and that's what I'm always trying to do with my music. I'm always trying to find a new sound that I'm not familiar with and see how I can use it. I can definitely see why people use the term jazz. I mean, my background is a jazz musician. To me, my music doesn't feel like jazz, but I think there are elements in there in terms of the harmony and the kind of approach to the way I write. But recently, I think I've been saying my music is sort of alternative, weird R&B. Like I said, I've been playing the saxophone for a long, long time, since I was 8 years old. And I've always tried to play and listen to and had jazz as a big part of my life. And yeah, in more recent years, I've been playing with artists like Moses, Boyd, Theon Cross as well, and just being involved in the sort of improvisational and sort of jazz influence scene in London, which is doing amazing things at the moment. So in my writing process, I usually produce and write at the same time. So I'm writing a song and I'm recording it at the same time. But I'm very aware of making things feel fluid and spontaneous and keeping things changing the whole time. If they're electronic drums, like playing the whole drums all the way through the song so that there's slight variations and, you know, playing the keys parts, writing a specific part, but then allowing it to shift and change each time. And I think that's something that I bring from my jazz background, which is things shifting and changing based on the feeling and the interactions in the music. And I think that's hard to do when you're recording because usually I'm just by myself, but I try to imagine as though I'm playing with people when I'm sitting there and recording, and then that influences these sort of improvisational moments. No, I actually don't really listen to much R&B music at all, like for whatever reason. I think it's just sort of happened that way that my voice suits a certain type of music and I've learned to sing. I've only been singing for like 6 or 7 years. I started writing and singing at the same time, way after I started doing other music. And at the beginning, my voice sounded completely different, and I've spent a lot of time to try and get my voice sounding the way that I like it. And I just think it lends itself to the music that I make. But no, I don't have any particular affinity with R&B music. I think most of the music I listen to is quite experimental. I like to listen to electronic music, ambient music, and a lot of like acoustic and old music. Yeah, I don't tend to listen to the type of music that I make in some ways. There are certain artists that I do that I really love and I aspire to sound like and take influence from, but yeah, it's not R&B. I just think it fits into that box for whatever reason. Oh, and also, I just think having vocals and lyrics in a song allows you to be so much more expressive, for me personally, than just playing instrumental music. And for most of my life, I was making instrumental music. And then when I started writing lyrics and learning to sing, it completely changed the process for me and opened up so many doors and really allows myself to express what I'm trying to say, and also allows myself to discover things about myself through writing. And that's an important part of making music for me now. So Alexithymia is a condition in which you can't really process or recognize your emotions. And that's something that I realized I had in 2020 when COVID was happening and we were staying at home. And like a lot of people, I think we started to realize the problems that we had with our mental health. And I was lucky to go to see a therapist at that time. And they helped me realize that I hadn't really been feeling any feelings for like most of my life. Anytime there was like a strong emotion that should have been showing itself, it was kind of blocked off in my head, and it would only present itself when it got way too much and kind of spilled over. And so instead of just giving up and being stressed out about that, I decided to write an album about it. And the way that I wrote the album was I took a time in my life where I've had an emotional response to something that I didn't acknowledge or process, and I pieced all of those moments together as if it was one relationship between two people. And in reality, those moments are to do with all sorts of different people, like family members, like friends, like romantic relationships, relationships with myself. But I wanted to piece it together as if it's one romantic relationship from the start to the end, because I think people really connect with music that's about love. And that was a real challenge for me, and it allowed me to process all these things from even when I was a kid that I'd never really processed before. So Genevieve is actually the reason that I started writing and singing. I met her when I was 19 or 20 at my university, and she was so kind and welcoming, and she invited me to stay in LA at her house. And when I was there, I just met all these amazing people who not only are amazing instrumentalists but also write songs and sing as a way of expressing themselves. And that's really what inspired me to start writing songs. So I'm very grateful, and I'm so grateful to have her on the album singing a song about my grandma. Yeah, it's been such a nice process to work with her. We weren't together when we recorded, we did it remotely, but she's just always so brilliant and attentive and kind and thoughtful. And with Moses, he came to my house. I had a studio in my old house in the garage that I built, and it was in the middle of summer and it was absolutely boiling hot. He came round and I just played this song once through. He sat at the drum kit. We closed the doors for like 5 minutes because it was too hot to keep the doors closed. He did like 2 takes, and then we had some lunch, and then I went through and it just completely transformed the track from this thing that just had this electronic drum machine throughout the whole song to having this amazing interactive and like flowing feel on the drums, and it completely made that song Clashing Colours. That's a big question. Let me work out what I think. So I guess the idea of that is how music that doesn't necessarily have words can impact people in such a deep way, like in relation to music that does have lyrics, that has a direct message. I think something interesting with me is that because I grew up as an instrumentalist and I hadn't written any lyrics or sang or even considered singing until I was like 19 or 20, I basically didn't know any of the lyrics to my favorite songs that had vocals. It just never occurred to me. It wasn't what I listened to. My ears were so in tune to melodies and harmony and rhythm and tone and textures that the kind of words were kind of secondary to me. And I guess that says a lot because music still had such a profound impact on me. So I don't think you necessarily need lyrics at all to write something that really connects and spreads a message. I think it's likely to be a more personal message when it's music that doesn't have lyrics, because it's more up for interpretation. But I absolutely know the feeling of just being completely taken by something just based on the chords or just based on the expressiveness of the playing or the sort of raw emotions that you can express from just playing instruments or playing a synthesizer or a loop or Foley sound. There's so much that you can do, and it completely depends on the listener if it's going to connect or not. I think that's amazing that you can listen to something at one point in your life and it means nothing to you, and then you experience something else and then you listen again and it can bring you to tears or whatever. It's just it's all to do with the relationships with the music and with yourself, I think. There's loads of people I'd love to collaborate with. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that I'm just going to shout out now. But I do love to collaborate. I'm often having sessions with people, working on their music, producing and writing and working on my music. I've got quite a lot of stuff coming up. I recorded a bunch of music in Austin, Texas in November with some amazing musicians. We had this beautiful studio, incredible sounding recordings, and now I'm taking them into my traditional process in my bedroom studio and kind of approaching it not like a live recording, because my music doesn't lend itself to sounding too live, I don't think, but kind of taking those live recordings and turning them into something that sounds like I've stumbled across incredible sounding samples and repurposed them into a song, and I'm really enjoying that process. That's all new to me, to have such high quality sounds to play with, because everything I usually do is just going straight into my computer. I'm not fussy about amps or microphones or things like that. It's just about what you can get out of something simple. So this is fun. I mean, making music to me is what I want to be doing most of the time. I think if I'm not making music, I'm usually just procrastinating by watching TV or something, or wanting to be outside and doing something and seeing something new. But I think it says a lot when you finish a work day and then all you want to do is go and carry on working, because it's a weird thing where your job is your hobby and they cross over. And I think it's hard for me to force myself to have other hobbies, because I always just want to be making music. And it's quite a privilege, of course, to be able to do that every day. Yeah, music creation is what I want to be doing most of the time. But I also love being outside and being in big places and seeing beautiful things. I'll take you through all I need. Let me have a look at my Spotify, because I'm not very good at listening to albums in the full. I've been doing it a bit more recently. Just got a car for the first time, and I really enjoy listening to albums in the car. But in general, I usually just find a song, and if I really like it, without knowing what it is, I'll just save it to this one playlist that I've had for 8 years. My most recent things, an artist called Grouper, a song called Promise, which I just stumbled across, and it was really beautiful. The first Tame Impala album I'd never listened to until I was on a long train journey, and I listened to the first 2 albums, and it was amazing because I had no idea how DIY it sounded. It was just really exciting to hear music that was so gritty and messy be so successful and have such an impact on people. New James Blake album, I'm a big James Blake fan. Luis Bonfa is someone who I love, who's a Brazilian guitarist from the 50s onwards, who just has a beautiful voice, incredible guitar player. It sounds like there's 2 or 3 people playing guitar when he plays guitar. A song called Haunted Heart by Bill Evans. And also I love country music, and there's this pub in Brighton on the coast in England that has country vinyl DJ nights. And I went a few months ago and heard a song called Mama He's Crazy by the Judds, and I love that. There's something about it. Everybody's gone. So mostly what I do is using VSTs. I really love the idea that you can just take one laptop anywhere and have access to all of your tools. That really means a lot to me in my process. I've gone through stages of having lots of pedals and synths and drum machines and stuff, and then I end up using them once and then just forgetting about them. So I've sold a lot of things, and I'm trying to be more minimal with my production. I used just a Rode NT1A, which is a really cheap microphone that I've had. It was the first microphone I bought when I was about 18, and I've learned to sing into it. And I think there's something in that, learning to get the most out of something, even if it's a cheap thing. Yesterday I just bought for the first time a proper sort of acoustic style guitar. I got a Hofner Senator guitar from the 1950s. I'll show you. There it is. Nothing crazy, not really expensive or anything, but it's just really nice to have something that has so much character with round strings. There's that, and also recently I got this from, I think, my granddad's house. They found it, and it's just a little Casio Tone M10, and it just sounds funny. It's just got a flute and a violin and stuff, and it sounds nothing like a flute or a violin or a piano, but it's a really cool little thing, and I like to distort it, run it through the speaker, and make it sound really aggressive. I'm so pleased that I'm managing to reach people all the way in China. It's so cool to have this connection with people that are so far away. I actually had someone from China who discovered me on Chinese social media come to one of my shows in London, which was just so cool. The fact that I'm able to communicate and touch people so far away. And I can't wait to come. I'm hoping to come at the end of this year at some point and play some gigs. And if that does happen, I would love for you guys to come and tell all your friends and try and sell out some shows. So thank you so much.